Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to part 2 of the Controversy, the Conspiracy Cast. I am your host with the most, Ike Isaacs, and of course I'm joined with Salsa Shark in this incredible adventure that we've been taking. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit like and subscribe, follow us on social media, hit up our Discord, all of that good jazz. But Salsa, are you ready to jump into the last half of the first tier of the Conspiracy Iceberg?
Might as well. This one's actually got a couple decent theories.
Yeah, there's a couple on here that I feel like we'll have a good little conversation about. So let's go ahead and knock out the first one. Hypnosis. Long story short, people are basically concerned as to whether or not hypnosis is, in fact, a real practice. Can you be hypnotized? To some extent, that is a true story. One person could indeed, I would say, hypnotize another person given the right circumstances and whether or not the other person is willing. But what do you think, Salsa?
I don't know if I would call this one a conspiracy. Seems just kind of like, because obviously hypnosis is real to a degree.
Right.
If your participant is willing and easily influenced enough, then yeah, you could hypnotize them. It's just psychology. But I mean, could you do it on a mass scale? Could you convince enough people of a certain thing through hypnotism? I don't know. Maybe we're all hypnotized right now.
Who knows? I guess we'll never know.
Yeah. I mean, the lamestream media has hypnotized us to believe that it's bad to eat Tide Pods, even though they look like candy.
100%.
For all we know, it's actually candy. They just don't want us to have it. It's for the billionaires, the rich ones.
Those motherfuckers.
Just
Speaking of
saying.
the lamestream media, the next one is media control, which didn't we cover that already?
Yeah, that kind of seems like, wouldn't that be under fake news?
I think so. So if you didn't, I guess, catch the last episode, we covered fake news, which is essentially the same thing. Who controls the media? Is there media bias? I guess this one is more specifically about like who controls the media. Like, does the government control the media? Does big corporations?
Well,
I don't know.
does it mean that, or does it mean like, does our media control our perception of reality?
True.
For example, like you read a news article that says 13 people dead in car pileup on the highway, but you see an article like that every single day, even though most of them aren't even nearby you. They're like a world apart. Is that to, I don't know, build a sense of confusion, anger, sadness to condition the population for, I don't know what the purpose is, but I don't know, makes them more easy to market to, maybe? Who knows? This, again, I don't know if this is a conspiracy or more just someone just typed some words onto a screen and now we're reading it.
Sure, media control. So the next one, this one is actually an interesting one. Simulation theory. So for people who maybe don't know, basically there's a theory that says that we're all living in a simulation of some sort. Whether or not specifically the simulation is from my perspective or if we're all existing at the same time in a simulation, kind of just depends. But I mean, who was it that was like, who kind of purported that theory? Wasn't it Elon Musk that was like, we might live in a simulation or some shit?
I don't know. I'm sure at some point he said something dumb that alluded to the simulation theory. It's Elon Musk. He tweets a dumb meme every day, so it's hard telling what's what.
True.
But
That's true.
but yeah, in terms of an interesting theory, this one could be real because it's kind of like the Fermi paradox in that hypothetically, based on statistics, it makes sense that there should be other civilizations advanced enough for space travel. In this case, it makes sense that there is a civilization somewhere with strong enough technology that they can run a simulation as advanced as what we're experiencing right now. So there's no reason we could not be in a simulation as we speak. But that would make the civilization who started our simulation, that's our god.
Same.
I mean, there's really nowhere else to go with that. That dude's literally God, just up there eating Cheetos and playing Sims.
Right, essentially. So, simulation theory, there is more to it. I feel like I feel like I remember there being like a whole theory about like if what was the thing I was thinking of? Oh, if we're able to create a simulation as well, like if we're able to create a simulation of like an advanced simulation that basically mirrors real life, if we're able to create that, then that proves that basically we don't live in a simulation.
I don't know. I think if you think about it, us creating a simulation as detailed as what we're experiencing right now is not proof that we're not in a simulation. I think that's just proof that our simulation would be a simulation of the worlds that our creators live in that we advanced to a point where we were able to make our own. It's kind of like what's the term where every iteration handles a problem, and if they don't get it wrong, they pass it on to the next iteration and then the next until eventually one of the iterations gets it right and then sends that answer back up the chain. Recursion, I think.
I have no idea. I mean, it sounds good.
I don't know. Maybe that's it, because why would we be a simulation? Are we a video game for entertainment? Are we some type of experiment? What are we meant to do in the simulation? Surely it's not just someday on a whim someone created a computer strong enough to make us do this. If we are a simulation, there must be an end goal. Maybe the end goal is to see if a less advanced civilization could create a simulation in themselves.
Oh, that's an interesting theory. So what you're saying is that we are now approaching what is it called? In theory, inception, simulation inception theory.
In a way, yeah.
Good Lord, the world we live in. So,
I mean, who knows? Maybe if we make a simulation, our world just ends. That'd be cool.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Let's hope that happens. Fingers crossed. Lord. But yeah, so again, simulation theory, in my opinion, not super realistic, but hey, maybe one day we'll just all disappear because the simulation ended. Fingers crossed that happens sooner than later. The next theory is the multiverse theory. So this kind of plays into like the Mandela effect a little bit, that there are multiple universes, that are similar to ours. Things like quantum, immortality, the prenatal quantum nightmare. They also are the theories that spawn off of the multiverse theory, and quantum entanglement, stuff like that. So the multiverse theory is pretty interesting. Just basically says that we exist in a string of universes that exist simultaneously next to each other, that are similar to one another but are different in some way. But there's an infinite number of universes that exist. What do you say?
I don't know. I can't remember what the video was, but I once watched a video that talked about it, which said there's a difference between the multiverse theory and the many universe theory. One being that there is an infinite number of universes, all with minute differences. No one is the same as the other.
Yeah.
Whereas the many universe interpretation is something along the lines of there are multiple realities stacked on top of each other that can interact with each other in certain ways, but it's not an infinite number. For example, ghosts are not dead spirits. Ghosts are actually just a different reality bleeding into ours. and that perhaps heaven and hell are also realities that exist that we transfer to on death. I don't know. In terms of just like the standard multiverse where there's an infinite number all concurrently happening, I don't see why it couldn't be true. There's no evidence to say that it's not, but there's no evidence to say that there is, except for there was an experiment done recently, something regarding matter passing through a quantum something or other. I don't know. It basically proved that matter can exist and transfer from one universe to the next. I
Okay.
don't know if it really proved anything. I just know that it happens. Point is, I'd like it for it to be true, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think that better explains, like time travel. That instead of going back in time, you're really just dimension hopping to a different dimension that's happening concurrently. But the difference is that instead of being set in 2021, it's set in 1942.
I guess that's interesting. I didn't think about it that way.
I mean, it would make the most sense in terms of not causing a paradox. Because you can alter an alternate universe without ruining that universe or your own.
Right. I guess that's true. Because I guess if if the concept of time travel were to exist in that scale, if there's a rigid structure of time, a very linear only structure of time, then like you said, changing an event, the butterfly effect, if you will.
I mean, there's always the problem that if you go back in time and do something, you would immediately invalidate it by doing that thing. If you go back in time to kill Hitler, that alone is enough that it would alter the world to such a degree that time travel's never invented and you don't go back in time to kill Hitler. Therefore, Hitler never gets killed. So everything happens again. We invent time travel. You go back to. It's a never-ending loop, basically.
Yeah, so you're gonna start going you're gonna go start on a spiral and end up in a pit of sorrow. But the next theory. Go ahead.
Actually, before we get too far from that, there's a really good web series called Red versus Blue. It's gotten a little more serious in later seasons, but in the first 5 seasons, it's literally just a bunch of dipshits in a canyon. And at one part, they talk about time travel because they think they've time traveled. And one guy literally keeps going back to prevent an event from occurring. But in the process, he keeps failing and creating more versions of himself trying to stop the event. So at some point, they're literally just like 100 of them in the room yelling at each other, trying to figure out how to fix the problem. At which point, that some guy's just like, wait, why don't we just ask the most recent version of us? Because if he's the most recent version, then whatever he does works since there are no more after him. It's goofy, but I think that's a pretty cool way to look at time travel.
Interesting. I guess that is an interesting way to look at it. But anyhow, we better move on before we spend too much time on the multiverse and time travel.
Of course.
So the next theory is the Denver airport. So this one's actually interesting. I've been to the Denver airport. I went there a while back to go to one of my cousin's weddings who lives in Montana. But we flew into Denver. So the Denver airport, for people who don't know, it's a huge, huge, huge fucking airport. I don't want to say it's the largest airport, but it's probably one of the most unnecessarily large airports that you've ever seen. Especially since, even though it's an international airport, it doesn't have the level of traffic that a lot of other airports have. Not only that, but the size of the airport and the structure, a lot of people think that either A, there's like an underground bunker of some kind, like a nuclear bunker for like all the world's elites, or some people think it has to do with like, satanic worship because isn't there like a bull out in the front with like red eyes or blue eyes or some shit?
It's a horse.
Oh, a horse.
It's like a horse on its hind legs with red eyes, and I don't know, it's real weird. I personally think that it's nothing as fantastical as demon worship. I think it's just we have a plan in which, if anything were to occur that could be world ending, we already have a world seed vault, which I'm sure you've heard about.
Yeah.
This is basically that, but for humans. It's perfectly stocked and able to handle X amount of people. Most likely, if I had to guess, something like 1,000 to 5,000. Something that, in the event of a world-ending catastrophe, they could survive and repopulate the Earth without running into any interbreeding issues.
Okay.
Because, I mean, it's the perfect location, an international airport, and I don't know, just think about it. Who else would think to put that kind of thing in Denver?
That's what I was
You know,
going to say, too.
what's Denver got going for it? Where we're like, yeah, international airport makes sense. The omelets, though,
So,
I will admit, a Denver
Denver
omelet is
omelet.
enough. That shit good.
Yeah, I
I
guess
don't.
true. Isn't a Denver omelet just egg, cheese, and ham?
No. Denver omelet is, if I'm not mistaken, egg, cheese, ham, and then grilled onions and green peppers. I think I'm gonna have to Google that. I remember back in our hometown there was a great place that made a great Denver omelets.
Was it the
Ooh,
place that you worked at?
yeah,
That place closed, you know?
yeah, I heard about that. Not surprising, but what can you do?
Disappointing. Right. Anyways, so there's a lot of different theories about the Denver airport. Like Salsa said, everything from satanic worship to preparing the world for the end of civilization, basically. And yeah, I've been there. I was actually there. They were doing a bunch of construction, and some of the construction signs were funny. They're actually making fun of that. Um, they're like, we're building a new something or the other, or are we? It basically they're goofing on themselves, and so I mean, I don't know how realistic this is, but still something interesting to think about. Um, so the next theory, and this is another one of those theories that I'm not even really sure if it's a theory per se, but it's a concept of cryptozoology. So cryptozoology is the scientific research and study of cryptids. Cryptids are things like the Jersey Devil, the Chupacabra, Bigfoot, the Yeti, so on and so forth. So it's also, what do you think?
I don't know. With a word like cryptozoology, I assumed it was like the study of the effect of Bitcoin on animals, but
Which also would be an interesting field of research because friggin' Bitcoin mining is going to send us into the next ice age.
as fun as that sounds, in terms of cryptids and the research of them, I don't think that cryptozoology is a thing. I think that there are people who, specialize in, I don't know how to explain it, but the missing links in
Yeah.
human evolution who may have, some expertise on what Bigfoot could be. But I think that more than likely there is no dedicated fields to cryptids. But then again, in terms of believing if cryptids exist, fuck it, why not? You know? I could see a Bigfoot existing, even a Jersey Devil. Goofy, dude out here looking on those scrawny legs and being weird coming down your chimney in New Jersey, but I could see it.
Right. So yeah, cryptozoology, interesting concept and thought process. Their entire websites, dedicated to cryptozoology and cryptids. So feel free to check those out. Um, the next one is CIA selling drugs. Again, 100% confirmed. The CIA funneled crack and other forms of drugs into black communities for decades in an attempt to disrupt those communities, which is, again, a proven fact. And they've done it to other people as well. So basically, CIA sold drugs to sort of as a physical operation of some sort. But what do you think, Salsa?
I'm thinking this list really ain't that good. There's just a bunch of stuff on here that's either A, not a theory, or a conspiracy, really. Like cryptozoology, that's not really a conspiracy. That's just like, do you think it's real? And CIA selling drugs, that's like, of course, that happened. We know it happened. What's the conspiracy? That they wanted to, destroy the black community? We all knew that. Do y'all not remember the Reagan years?
Yeah, I was going to say Reagan was a pretty prominent racist.
He was the CEO of racism at the time.
Yeah, I mean there are literal like conversations that have been like put out now that show that. Um, Basically, it's
I
like
mean,
recordings of him like saying like racial slurs and shit.
even his war on marijuana was heavily influenced by his disdain for the black community and the Mexican community. I mean, he also hated anyone south of the border. Let's be real.
Good lord.
So,
I mean, yeah.
yeah, less of a conspiracy, just big shock. The U.S. government has done some dumbass shit because they're racist. Ooh, shaking in my boots. It's not
Shaking
quite.
in my boots.
It's not quite as fantastical as Bigfoot being real and eating my ass.
Okay, so the next one is climate denial. So I don't know if this is saying that climate change denial or like people are denying that the climate exists. Um, but I'm gonna
You're
assume.
telling me there's a thing called climate and it changes? Bull fucking shit.
So I'm assuming that it's climate change denial. That what we're
Oh
doing
yeah.
now is damaging to our environment, and it is climate change is real. So I don't want to talk too much about that because if you don't know what climate change and climate change denial is, you're probably living under a rock. Google it. But what do you think, Salsa?
I mean, obviously, all signs point to climate change being real and a danger to society. But I remember a very funny video by Steven Crowder, a right-wing grifter, who he did this video. It's like top 5 climate change theories, or not theories, top 5 climate change whatever's debunked. And watching it the first time, I knew something was wrong because I was like, man, none of these really seem like true, perhaps. And it wasn't until years later I saw someone else, bring it up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, here's all the reasons it's wrong." Like at one part, he's talking about the polar bears aren't dying, and it's like, no, they are. Their population has been dwindling due to the loss of polar ice caps. Or one part where he's literally like, "Look, if you see right here, it says every year, the I think it was like the Greenland ice shelf gains this many tons of ice on this side, and that's proof we're not losing ice." But it's like that's good thought, even though the person who wrote that article that you're referencing was proven to be wrong. But that literally doesn't even account for the sheer amount of ice we're losing at the poles that outweighs the ice we gain.
True.
So, point is, climate change, it's real, I have no doubt in my mind that it's real based on all the scientific evidence. And it's like, come on. What are we denying at this point other than reality?
Exactly. So next one is reptilian. So we kind of talked about this a little bit, but there's like this. Honestly, to me at this point, reptilians is more of a joke. So basically, if I know correctly, I don't know the entire thing, but there's like this theory that basically there are lizard people who are existing as basically they're a form of some otherworldly or maybe extraterrestrial being that has invaded our world's politics, and they look like us but they're not us. They wear like skin suits or something. A lot of people said that Obama was a reptilian lizard person. I don't know the whole specifics of this, just that it's absolutely fucking insane.
Yeah, I never was big on reptilians. I think that it doesn't make sense. It goes back to the same problem I had with, other stuff like shit. I don't even know what I brought this up about, but the idea of what's the purpose? Reptilians, they exist, cool, but why are they running our government when they could have their own government? Let's assume they're aliens and they crash landed here and took over our government. Why though? Why would they not just use the technology they had to get here, fix it, and then leave? Because clearly we're not a friendly people. If we find them out, we will probably murder them brutally.
Right.
So, well, why do they bother to run our world if they have nothing to gain from it? It's not like they can use our money. I'm sure even like gold and shit's worthless to them. They probably have their own Bitcoin that is actually used as a currency.
Right. It's actually real. So yeah, so reptilians, it's a bullshit theory in my opinion. Really nothing to back it up other than some edited photographs of Barack Obama looking pale and lizard-like. Um, so the next one is the NWO, the New World Order. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've heard this a lot, but I really have no idea what the fuck the NWO is supposed to be. I know it's supposed to be like this, like government overthrow, and we're supposed to be put into like it's supposed to be like this new world, one world government or some shit. I don't know. It's a thing that I've heard before, but like I don't really know exactly what it is. What do you think, Salsa?
Yeah, I don't know. It's anytime I hear the New World Order brought up, it's usually in a conversation that's so brain dead that I ignore it. Where it's like,
So
oh yeah, Joe Biden is part of the New World Order, and the mask mandate is literally his attempt to make us all subservient so that we'll become, I don't know, femboy cat maids or something. And it's like, first of all, I wish a motherfucker would. But second of all, why?
right,
Let's assume something as big as the New World Order exists. I can't remember who it was, but they came out with a theory, or not really a theory, but more of a statistical game, which shows that based on the sheer number of people involved in a conspiracy, how long it would take for it to come out that it's real, or for a whistleblower to pop up. For like the moon landing, required so many people that if it were faked, by now someone would have blown the whistle.
yeah,
For the New World Order, infinitely bigger. There is no doubt that if it were real, we would have like a dozen whistleblowers right now. Like, here, look at these faxes I stole from the headquarters that prove. And it's like, yeah, you can say, oh, but the New World Order would just kill them off before they could. And it's like, okay, but they would not be able to do that to a dozen people at the same time without even a hint of the information getting out. In fact, let's assume they did. Then why are we even talking about it? Clearly, either they suck at their jobs and are not killing these people fast enough, or anyone talking about it doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, and the New World Order doesn't exist.
there you go.
It's like, come on, it's simple as.
Right. So there you go. If you want more information, I'd say Google it. The next one is flat Earth. Oh God.
Oof.
Um, yeah. So I know a few flat earthers.
Oh
Unfortunately,
God.
yeah, I know a few. Unfortunately, that I went to high school with. I'm not gonna say who they are. I'm not gonna shit on them or anything. But I'm
I'd
just
say I'm guessing they didn't, graduate from high school.
no. They somehow managed. But there are a few people I went to high school with who believe in this. So basically, the long story short is that the Earth is flat. Basically, I I don't even know like how to even explain flat Earth theory other than they basically think that the Earth is flat, the sun is artificial, that the moon is fake. Like, I mean, there's a
Well,
whole. I mean, there's more to it than that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure like what all of their beliefs are. But That's
I'll say,
one version of it.
I've done a bit of looking into this one, and there's many theories. There's some who believe that we live in a dome, the sun is fake, and that it's all just an illusion put up by the New World Order. For what reason? Not a clue. We have no idea. It doesn't make sense. But there's some who theorize that there is no dome, that the only thing preventing us from going over the edge is a giant wall of ice, which is the poles. I think that would be the South Pole?
Yeah. South Pole, North Pole.
Yeah. And so the only thing we would have to do is get over that, and suddenly we're in outer space. Problem is, according to them, the New World Order, again, they have a blockade of ships and military bases on that wall, so that if you even try to get close, you'll get blown out of the sky. Problem with that theory is you can literally pay to take a cruise to the South Pole and see it for yourself. There is no wall. So both of those,
You mean they're wrong?
yeah, crazy, right? But I mean, in that theory, they literally believe that the Earth is flat and flying upwards at such a speed that it creates gravity. Meanwhile, the sun is matching our speed and rotating in such a way that it magically provides the day-night cycle without just, hitting the entire flat Earth with sun at the same time, which it would, based on, the laws of nature and light. But I mean, this one's been debunked hundreds of times. It's not a good theory. Literally, all piloting equipment proves that it's fake. Whether you're using they have a device which measures your exact location on the Earth every minute,
The
and
GPS?
kind of, but it accounts for rotation.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
And literally all they had to do to prove that the Earth was a globe and spinning was just sit it in place for 5 minutes, and it would show that there is a 1 degree shift. And it did. And then they were like, it seems the Earth is still flat, but we performed the test wrong somehow. But
Okay.
yeah, batshit crazy people.
If I could coin the term, absolutely fucking insane.
Exactly.
So yeah, flat Earth, not real. Horrible theory, in my opinion. Literally, it's not even interesting. It's just ridiculous and stupid.
I mean, again, who has to gain from it, from making us believe the world is a globe?
Yeah, exactly. There's no
to
benefit.
sell more globes?
Yeah. It's the globe industries, man. I'm telling you.
Some dude made a globe once and was like, fuck, people better start believing or else I'm going to go out of business.
Right. And thus the conspiracy began. But so the next one, we're just gonna honestly, we don't even have to talk about this. We've already talked about it, but the moon landing was fake. A lot of people think that it was fake for different reasons. There are even MythBusters tried to debunk it, and they did. Yeah, there's a bunch of shit like that.
Well, hold on now.
Yeah.
First off, the moon landing was faked. It was directed by Stanley Kubrick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But the problem, I'm dead serious, is that Stanley Kubrick is such a, how do I say this? He's a perfectionist. So he literally said, I will not do this project unless we film on location.
So it's filmed on the moon.
Yeah. Faked, but it was on the moon.
Cool. Okay. Good talk.
Yeah.
So moon landing, probably not faked. Look it up if you want more information. It's a pretty common theory. Next one's Area 51. What are they hiding in Area 51? Most likely aliens, if I had to guess. But yeah, that's basically the theory. The Area 51 is used in some way, shape, or form to either house aliens or to conduct various types of tests. But yeah, what do you think, Salsa?
I want to say it's aliens. I fear that it's not aliens. I think it's boring. It's probably something like, yeah, this is literally where we just test out experimental aircraft. Like that
Right.
one, it's the Dorito shaped bomber that literally can't
Yeah.
be detected at certain altitudes.
Fuck, I can't remember what it is called, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's like, yeah, that would make much more sense than aliens. I hope it's aliens, you know. We'll find out one day if we ever do another raid, but until then, we're
They
just gonna
can't
have
stop us
to.
all.
I like that, the whole they can't stop us all, because in reality, it's right. They can't. Because either A, they kill us all, which sends a message to the world, and our government would be rightly condemned for murdering 50,000 civilians, or we get in and then find nothing's there, and then we all just get arrested and go to Guantanamo Bay.
I was gonna say go to Guantanamo because we infiltrated a military base.
It's like a wise man once said, waterboarding at Guantanamo Bay sounds really fun if you know what neither of those things are.
Exactly. Same. Uh, so yeah, Area 51. We'll see the next time we try and run in. So this next one, the last two that we're going to talk about do require a little bit of explanation. So bear with me here. So the first one is Psyops, which is psychological operations. These are operations to convey selected information and indicators to audiences to influence their emotions, motives, and then objective reasoning. And ultimately, the objective reasoning, I'm sorry, what the fuck? I can't read. Ultimately, the behavior of their governments, organizations, groups, individuals. So basically, we go in, we use some form of directed, basically, we try and convey information to a person. So you say to one person, hey, your government's evil. And they eventually spread that to 5 people. Those 5 people spread to 100 people, so on and so forth. Thus is the world we live in. So then eventually, through this form of psychological operation, we've now implanted the idea that the government that exists there is evil. Now the government has to respond by either improving or they get overthrown. There you go. That's a psychological operation. We've done it
Well,
before. We'll probably do it again.
I think a better way to explain psyops in a way that's a little more broad and kind of a more commonly used turn of phrase is a psyop is literally anything that involves psychological warfare. For
Right.
example, during the Vietnam War, there was a unit of American soldiers who tested a psychological operation in which we literally just put giant speakers out into the jungle and played scary ghost noises and rattling chains over them.
So,
And it would heavily reduce the morale of the enemy because of how superstitious they were.
oh,
Or,
the fucking ghosts are here, man.
exactly. But they did it to us in turn, where they literally did this thing where they would broadcast a radio station which featured a Vietnamese woman talking in an in the English language, but with a seductive, sultry voice, saying like pro-communist things.
Hmm.
And the idea was to make the GIs, even if only psychologically, confused. And it worked to some degree, but nowadays psyops are more seen like, oh, our US government, for example, lies about, and this is a completely out there, not true one. They lie about the deaths related to COVID in order to convince us all to get a vaccine that's filled with poison for some reason. Not true. Literally not true. I'm still alive, despite the fact I was promised I would die if I took the vaccine.
True.
Bullshit. But yeah,
Yeah.
psyops are literally just a poor man's version of psychological warfare.
100%. So yeah, that's psyops. They exist, obviously. Their purpose is pretty well known. I mean, it's pretty nefarious on the surface, so I don't know how it could be any more nefarious under more layers. But yeah. So the last, but certainly not the least, is Stonehenge. So for people who don't know, Stonehenge is that's the rocks and the slabs that are like stacked on one another, right?
It's the rocks and the slabs. Damn straight. That is Stonehenge.
Cool. All right. So the basically there are a few theories on what Stonehenge is and who built Stonehenge. So here are just a few. I'm going to rapid fire these. So these are just a few of the concepts that people have juxtaposed. Basically, a giant or giants built Stonehenge. A theory that I saw was that the red-headed conehead giants built Stonehenge. Fun fact. That when Salsa mentioned that in the last episode when we were talking about, what were we talking about? What it was?
Atlantis.
Atlantis. That's right. You were talking about the coneheads during Atlantis. So when he said it during Atlantis, it like triggered something in my brain. I'm like, oh, in the next episode we're going to talk about Stonehenge, and they come up here, which is weird. Another one is that Stonehenge was literally an ancient team building exercise. I'm not fucking kidding you. Literally, it said the Stonehenge was a fucking team building exercise. Basically, that a bunch of people came together to build it to improve morale. Some people believe that how it was constructed, it may be a ancient health spa, or a Neolithic sex symbol, that it was in some way, shape, or form used as a icon of sex in the Neolithic area. Now, the other two are questions as to who built it. Did aliens build it, and did druids build it? What the fuck is a druid, first of all?
Ooh, good question. I want to say a druid is a magic user who gets their magic from nature, maybe?
Let me look.
I don't know. I know like mages get their magic from spell books. I can't remember all the other kinds, but there's a type who get their magic from their gods. There's a type who get their magic from like crystals. I don't fucking know. I think we just call those white women.
Right. So, druid is a member of learned class among the ancient Celts, I'm sorry. Known the Celts, that'd be right. They acted as priests, teachers, and judges. Their name means knower of the oak tree, and very little is known about the druids because they didn't keep records of their own, I guess. So
damn, knower of the oak tree, but not of written word. Like goddamn.
But so yeah, they were like shamans of some sort. So that's a theory too. Stonehenge is very mysterious, and I like the idea that there is more to Stonehenge than meets the eye, which I would agree with probably. What do you think, Salsa?
I told you about that series by the Armored Skeptic fellow. And he talks about Stonehenge at some point in that series. I forget what he said, but in my personal opinion, I think it's going to be mundane. It's literally just going to be like, yeah, they built Stonehenge so that it was something to do with the stars, if I had to guess. That if you stand in the center at a certain time of year, you would see certain constellations through different areas of Stonehenge. And obviously, it's no longer the case due to how many years later it's been because of, I forget what it is, like rotational drift of the Earth or something, which is why North Star is no longer quite as north as it used to be.
Fair.
Which is a real thing, I found out. I can't remember what I was watching the other day where they brought that up where, oh yeah, it was Dr. Stone, some anime, and he was like, oh man, the North Star looks like it's X amount of degrees away from the north now, so let me do math in my head. It's been millions of years. It's like, damn. Good show, would recommend, but point is, I think it's something to do with the celestial bodies.
Yeah.
But I love the idea that it was a PR stunt for morale. That is absolutely my favorite theory now.
Stonehenge was a PR stunt. Shit. But yeah, no, I agree. It most likely is just some dumb shit for. Oh Lord, just
Like,
some
don't get
dumb
me
shit.
wrong. I
Go ahead.
think I think it's impressive how they, built it with primitive tools. And even if it was just used for viewing the celestial bodies in a certain way, whether it was to worship them or just because, that's all impressive. I just think compared to it being built by giants or by the gods or druids, I just don't think it's going to be that interesting or cool.
Right, I agree. But all right, so we better end it there because we've been going on for a while. Yeah. Long story short, we covered a lot of theories. Covered 15 theories per part. So if you haven't seen part one, go check that out. If you checked out part one and you liked part two, leave us a like and a comment. Um, Subscribe. Yeah, follow us on social media. All of our information's in the description at the end, and also hit us up on Discord. Talking about conspiracy theories is always a fun time. I always enjoy doing it. So yeah. But that being said, if you liked everything you heard and you want to hear more from me and Salsa talking about conspiracies together, or if you have any recommendations on how we can improve our content, I always like to tell people that we're open to hearing more from you guys. So let us know. And last but not least, today when you hear this video, this is going to be Friday the 19th. The next Friday you hear from us will be Black Friday, and that will be our well, it was supposed to be our 100 subscribers video. Then it was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now almost 900 subscribers video. So for our 900 subscribers video on Black Friday, you'll see me and Salsa again, but this time in person. Salsa will probably not show his face on camera, so he might be like covered up or something, but we'll still both be there and we'll both have a good time.
I am officially requesting that I get Japanese mosaic like porn censoring.
Maybe. We'll see how that goes.
I mean, if I have to bring in the tentacles for it to work, then I will.
Please don't. Please don't. Anyways, so we're going to end it there. Like I said, like and subscribe, all that good shit. So also, do you have any words of wisdom to impart on the wonderful folks out there before I close this off?
Yeah. Bet y'all love conspiracies. Conspiracy my dick in your mouth. I'm kidding.
Okay. All right.
JFK moon landing.
All right, guys. See you guys later. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay awesome, and we'll see you in the next one. See ya.
Hasta luego.